Hello, welcome to this video where I'm going to be swatching all of my Clionadh eyeshadows, and I will also be comparing all the ones that I found something to compare it to. Before we get into it, I want to say that I do not have shadows in all their formulas. I'm going to leave timestamps down below so that, if you're just interested in a few formulas, you can skip ahead. And I also don't have all the shadows in the formulas that I have. For some of these, I just have one or two eyeshadows, while for the glitter multichromes, the vibrant multichromes, and the glitter iridescent multichromes, I have the whole collection. I also have all of the original hybrid multichromes, but they did do an expansion more recently, and they had like 3 new shades, and I don't have those. So this is it. This video is going to be very long, and I hope you enjoy it. So first we're going to start with the Vibrant Multichromes, and I actually think that the Vibrant Multichromes is probably the most inconsistent formula that I have tried from Clionadh. I feel like there's 2 different formulas in here, but then also 3 different kinds of ideas. So first here we have Throne, Courtyard, and Lineage. The top 3 ones, I think you can see they are much more smooth, almost satin-like compared to the bottom 3. And that's the first formula that we find in this, in the Vibrant Multichrome line. I think that Throne is really dull. I actually don't mind Courtyard and Lineage. I actually really like Lineage. As a one and done shade, I think it can look really pretty. But Throne is, I feel like it looks really dry on my eyelids. Personally, I wouldn't recommend Throne. And then the bottom 3 shades are a more sparkly formula, which is Topiary, Heirloom, and Crown Jewel. Then on the second group, we have Majesty and Coronation at the top, which I think I would bundle together with the bottom 3 shades from the previous swatch. This is like also a sparkly formula. Now the bottom 4 shades here are the third idea that I think is inside this formula, which is Monarch, Reign, Bloodline, and Royalty. These are sparkly, but they are also a lot more dimensional, I think, than the other sparkly shades in this formula, because the base color is different from the main sparkle color. With Majesty, Coronation, and the 3, greens below from the previous swatch, the base color and the main sparkle color are the same. You only get to see a different color on the shift, while with Monarch, Reign, and Bloodline, and Royalty, you get the dimension straight on, because you have, the colors are different, like for example, Reign, you have that like red base with this green kind of sparkle. They definitely are more dimensional on the eyes than the other ones. Now the glitter multichromes, even though I feel like it's a pretty safe formula, you're gonna get somewhat of a sparkly eyeshadow. The formula itself is also a little bit inconsistent. Some shades are sparklier and shiftier than others. So here in the first group, we have Carving, Abrasion, Grisaille, Glazier's Mark, Glazed, Tracery, Enamel, and Stencil. And I think you can clearly see here that the particle size differs. The first 4 shades to me have a bigger particle size and are more sparkly compared to the bottom shades that, even though are sparkly, they're a bit more smooth and have a smaller particle size. And I think you can also see here that some shades are definitely more shifty than others. For me, Tracery here is the least shifty in this group, and I think you can see that even when I turn my arm, it's really hard to see a shift. Here we have Chandelier, Ornamental, Corrosion, Foiling, Opulent, Ciel, and Ripple. And again, I think you can see here, some are more sparkly than others, some are more sheer, and others are more opaque. Ciel for me is one that I really don't see a shift. But the other ones, I think they all have some sort of a shift. Here we have Translucency, Sunbeam, Kaleidoscope, Spotlight, Emboss, Blaze, Torch, and Engrave. Again, I think you can see that Kaleidoscope, Spotlight, Emboss, they have a smaller particle size. They look much more smoother, especially when I turn my arm, I think is where you can see the sparkles. Then last here we have the shades that are part of the expansion. We have Adornment, Trinket, Flare, Embellishment, Flagstone, and Etched. I think these are all quite sparkly, although I think that Embellishment and Flagstone are a little bit less dimensional, again, because of the contrast in the colors compared to the other shades that have more contrast. So because of that, they look more dimensional. Now we're going to see the Glitter Vibrant Multichromes, and this is a category of eyeshadow that they created after they launched the original line. And I'm I'm a little bit confused because I feel like they didn't really need to. So if you're wondering, you know, like how is this formula like, let me explain it to you. So here we have Court Jester, Empress, Duchess, and Regal. To me, Regal, because it has more of that opaque base, it is very similar in terms of formula to Royalty. So I would say Regal could be part of the Vibrant Multichrome line, you know, together with Reign, Monarch, Bloodline, and Royalty. I feel like it could fit in with those shades. It's very similar in terms of formula. And Court Jester, Empress, and Duchess could fit in easily for me with the glitter multichromes, you know, like Abrasion, Carving. I feel like because they are a bit more on the sheer side, they could just be part of the glitter multichromes. And yeah, I think you can see they're all very sparkly. They have a bigger particle size. I really like these shades. Now we're going to talk about the hybrid multichromes. The hybrid multichromes are a little bit inconsistent for me as well. Some shades are shiftier than others, some shades are sparklier than others. But overall, their idea was to create a hybrid version of a sparkly multichrome and a black base multichrome. And even though I think that they have somewhat achieved it with, you know, some of the colors that they have that are part of like the classic kind of black base multichromes, I'm not exactly sure I like the execution here. So first we have Chalice, Embroidery, Iris, and Tapestry. And I think you can see that Tapestry is definitely the most shifty of them, but it's also the least sparkly. Personally, my favorite here is Chalice. I think Embroidery is also very nice, but I don't see much of a shift on those. I just think that they are really sparkly. And Chalice has like almost a multicolored sparkle in it that looks quite dimensional. And then on the second group, we have Mosaic, Roseline, Medieval, and Shard. And I think you can see Roseline is one that I also feel like is not very sparkly, but also not very shifty. Mosaic, Medieval, and Shard definitely have a shift. I think the Mosaic shift is a bit stronger. But these are not the most sparkly shades out there. I would say they have like a medium to small particle size. Now we're going to look at the electric multichromes, and I would say that the formula on these, it's also a little bit inconsistent, but overall I would say they all have some sort of a sparkle to them, but some definitely have a bigger particle size. So here we have Signet, Oriole, Niello, Hilt, Emblem, and Mural. And I think you can see that Mural is very sparkly, especially when we compare it to Hilt. I feel like Hilt has the smaller particle size here, while Mural has the biggest particle size, but they are all quite sparkly. I also have to say that I find Signet and Oriole because the sparkle color and the base color are very similar. They tend to be a little bit less dimensional than Yellow, Hilt, Emblem, and Mural that have a much more visible contrast in the color of the base and the sparkle. Now for the Earth Vibrant Multichromes, I would say the formula here is also very similar to the formula on the electric multichromes. They all have some sort of a sparkle, some are a bit sparklier than others. So here we have Cobblestone, Royal Plum, Royal Peach, Bronze Fountain, and Climbing Vine. Again, I don't want to repeat myself, but I do feel that Bronze Fountain is the one that has the most dimension in it because of the difference in the base and the sparkle color, while the other ones, the sparkle and the base are quite similar. I think Cobblestone is a close second in terms of the dimension and the contrast, but the other ones I do feel like straight on they don't have the dimension. And then we have State, Wall of Ivy, Iron Gate, and Royal Peach. These all have a contrast, but I do have to say the Royal Peach is by far my favorite. It just looks really, really beautiful on the eyes, especially as a one and done shade. And I have to say that Iron Gate, when I wore it, I have to wear it again, but when I wore it, that dark base just didn't come through on my eyes, and it just kind of looked green. It didn't look this beautiful on my eyes. Now we're going to look at the Pastel Multichromes. I only have one of these, and I'm pretty sure this was a free gift with purchase because I did not buy this myself. This is Tower, and even though I think it looks pretty on the footage, I can tell you that on my eyes, it just doesn't look shiny. It looked very, very dull, like almost satin. So that is one shade that I don't really like. And then we also have, I only have one shade from the Deep Iridescent Multichromes. and this is Azure. And again, I have a similar issue with Tower where it just doesn't look very shiny on my eyes, although I have seen swatches of other shades compared to the Terra Moons because there's a lot of overlap between the deep iridescent multichromes from Clionadh and the gray base multichromes from Terra Moons. So that's why I only have this one shade, because I have pretty much all the dupes from Terra Moons. But based on swatches I have seen online, and some people have also confirmed to me that this is the only shade that is more dull-like. The other shades are much shinier. From the Series 1 Iridescent Multichromes, I only have two shades and I don't like them. At the top we have Glare, and at the bottom we have Flicker. And I think you can see Glare is a little bit shinier. Flicker is really dull, like really dull. Almost, I mean, I don't even know if I can call it a satin. But again, I just feel like these are not really shiny. There's a lot of, iridescent shades out there that I think are just better than these. And now the glitter iridescent multichromes. These are their sparkly iridescent multichromes. Definitely my favorite iridescent multichromes from Clionadh. I do have to say that because they are quite sparkly, they have like a bigger particle size. I really don't use these all over my eyelids. I use them like on the middle to the inner part. And usually I use them as toppers or like inner corner highlights. So because of that, I don't get much of a shift from these. I get pretty much the color that they look like straight on. I do think that if you put it all over your eyes, and if you have like really round eyelids, you might get the shift. But personally, I don't get any shift from these. I just get like the main color from the sparkle. So here we have Gilding, Glint, Gloaming, Gleam, Glisten, Glimmer, and Glow. And I think you can see that some of these are a little bit sparklier than others. I think you can see, for example, the difference between Glimmer and Glow. But overall, they are quite sparkly. Now, I only have one of the dimensional multichromes, and this is spheric, and I'm sorry for the different type of swatch. I completely forgot to swatch it when I was swatching all these shades. But yeah, I cannot speak on the formula overall because it is the only shade I have, but it's really sparkly. And it has like a darker base that blends out really easily. It has like multicolored sparkles. It's really pretty, especially if you like neutrals, but you want something a little bit more interesting. Now for their standard eyeshadows, it is what they call it on their website, and these come in round pans compared to the stained glass collection that comes in those like rectangle pans. Overall, I would say calling these standard eyeshadows is pretty accurate. They have a standard formula. Some are a little bit shinier, some are a little bit more dull. There's two that I think are sparklier than others, but overall I would say they are pretty standard. So here in the first group we have Chamomile, Sol, Prosecco, Centaur, and Caribou. And Sol, I would say, is the only one here that is like full-on smooth metallic. It has no sparkle particles. Chamomile has some like scattered sparkles. Prosecco also has a little bit of sparkle. Centaur is by far my favorite. It's ultra sparkly. They did come out with it more recently, so I do think that they have improved the formula on that one. And Caribou also has some sparkles, but I think you can see that Centaur really is just a lot more sparkly than the others. Then here we have Lacy, Prophecy, Pink Sugar, Linny, and Dahlia. And I think that Linny is what they came out with before Centaur. I do think it's a little bit less sparkly than Centaur, but definitely more sparkly than the other shades. Here we have Lofty, Hex, Amulet, and Permafrost. Permafrost looks really interesting on this footage, but it is definitely a more like satin dull kind of shadow. And then the last group we have Elixir, Shroom, Toadstool, Room, Fog, and Wormwood. These are probably some of my favorites from them. I really like Elixir. It has like this muted green base. Shroom, Toadstool, and Wormwood are all like different versions of that blue-brown, duochrome. I do think that Shroom is a little bit more unique. There's something quite neutral about it. While Toadstool, I think you can see, has a really warm red base with like the green sparkle. And Wormwood has quite a bit of a purple on its base, while Shroom is lighter and just a little more like taupe. And I also like Fog. I just think it's a really pretty tone for a blow. Now we're gonna get into the comparisons. Because this video is quite long and I did quite extensive comparisons, I am not going to include the iridescent comparisons here because I already did them on my comparing all my iridescent video. So if you want to see dupes or comparisons for the iridescents, I highly recommend that you check that video out. I'm going to link it below so that you can see it. And I pretty much have a dupe, sometimes multiple dupes for all of the iridescents. So the first here, I'm just comparing, these are all Clionadh shades, and it's because Clionadh, when they came out with the expansion, they redid some of their shades. So in case you have some of the original shades and you're wondering how they compare to the reformulated version that is currently available on the website, this is the comparison here. So we have at the top the currently available formula, and then at the bottom we have the original formula. So the first two is Glazier's Mark, then 3 and 4 are Sunbeam, and then the last two are Ciel. So here we have Clionadh Corrosion, Clionadh Chalice, Non-Professional Island Serpent. I think I can see that these are all pretty similar. Chalice does have a deeper base. One that I forgot to include here that is also pretty similar is Jade Glow 365. I just couldn't find that shade, but it's also pretty similar. So if you wanted to find a dupe for 365, I think any of these would be a great option. Here we have Clionadh Embellishment, Copacetic Shrooms, Luxie Howl at the Moon, and Dandelion's Dahlia. These are also very similar to the Lime Chrome shade from the Natasha Denona Gold palette. So here we have Clionadh State, Produce for Your Face Explosive, and Terra Moon's Hot Spice Cider. I think you can see State's a little bit different. It's a little bit lighter, a little bit shinier, and it has that shift. While Explosive and Hot Spice Cider are pretty much the dupes for each other. But I do have to say that I think that on the eyes, Explosive and Hot Spice Cider look a little bit more dimensional because the base comes through a little bit better, at least on my eyes. This is one that was unexpectedly hard to find the dupes. So first we have Clionadh A Wall of Ivy, then Luxie Phone Home, and then Terra Moon's A Space Case. I was sure I was going to have a dupe for A Wall of Ivy because the concept of it is not new, but the tone of it, it's actually quite unique. This could also be in the same family as the one I compared before, with Explosive and Hot Spice Cider, but the tone of the green is definitely different. And yeah, I think that if you have Phone Home, you could put on like a warm brown base underneath it, and you're gonna, you can do like your own version of it. But yeah, the tone of it was just quite unique. I was pretty sure that I had at least something from Terra Moons that was a dupe for it, but I don't think I do, or at least I missed it. Then these are all very similar. Here we have Clionadh Adornment, Luxie Jelly Bean, Touch of Glam Sweet Nectar, and Clionadh Sunbeam. Sunbeam is definitely the most gold of them all, but they're all quite similar. Here we have Clionadh Blaze, Divina Tucana, Terra Moon's Venus, and Dandelion's Earscene. I think you can see these are all pink to gold. Terra Moon's Venus even goes to green, but they're definitely all in the same family. Now, these are ones that I don't think that they are dupes or even that similar, but I do think that it could be worth to show you a comparison of them. So at the top we have Clionadh Trinket, and at the bottom we have Terra Moon's Axis. And I think you can see, even though they are kind of different versions of the same thing, they have, in the end, different effects. The base on Terra Moon's Axis is much more opaque, much more orange, and the blue isn't as strong as in Trinket. And then below it we have Clionadh Opulent and Pretties for Your Face Jolt. Opulent is also a really unique shade. The closest thing I had was Jolt, but I think I can see they are definitely different. Now here we have Clionadh Ripple, Mom Professional Breath of Eden, and Luxie Santa Monica. Breath of Eden was PR, and all the Mom Professional shades were PR that you see here. I do think that Ripple and Breath of Eden are pretty much the same in terms of the color and the shift, but Breath of Eden is more sheer and more sparkly, and Santa Monica is definitely more blue, but it was the closest thing it had from Luxie. Now here we have Clionadh Flagstone, Clionadh Heirloom, and Copacetic Winter Solstice. These are all different, but I just wanted to compare them. Then here we have Clionadh Lineage, Produce for Your Face Enchantment, Touch of Glam Pixie Got a Makeover, and Luxie Jack Frost. These all have the exact same base color. Jack Frost does not have the pink shift, and Pixie Got a Makeover has a little bit of pink in it, but is also not that strong. I do think Enchantment and Lineage are the most similar to each other, but the pink in Lineage is just stronger than any other shadow. It just has the most visible pink shine. Now here we have Clionadh Mural, Mom Professional Ocean Phoenix, Glam Shop Abracadabra, and Clionadh Royal Pear. I really wanted to compare Mural to Ocean Phoenix because even though they are similar, they are definitely different. I think you can see that Mural is really that has like a true orange sparkle, while Ocean Phoenix has more of a pink sparkle, and the bases are also different. Mom Professional pulls a bit more blue, while Mural is like that really green teal. I don't know what color that is. And then Abracadabra is like a more dulled down version of Royal Pear. I actually love all of these four shades and I'm happy to have them all. And I think you can see that they are all different in their own way. And then I also wanted to compare all of these because like I ended up finding out that I had a lot of these like green with pink. Some sort of like a green base with the pink sparkle. So here we have Clionadh Duchess, Terramoon's Opie, Terramoon's Ganymede, Terramoon's Perihelion, Terramoon's Coalescence, Mom Professional Acid Trip, Clionadh Royal Pear, and Terramoon's Quasar. And I think you can see they all have like slightly different bases and slightly different sparkles, and they all have like a different shift, even though a lot of them have that like bright green shift. Again, they're all different, but it's up to you to decide, you know, what might be redundant to you. Then here we have Clionadh Emblem and Terramoon's Elsefina at the top, and those two, even though they're not exactly the same, I think Emblem is more shifty and Elsefina pulls a little bit more blue on the base. I have worn both of these on my eyes. I had Emblem on one eye and Elsefina on the other eye, and it was almost impossible to tell that I was wearing different shadows, so I don't think you need both of these. And at the bottom, I think these are like pretty much dupes. We have Clionadh Crown Jewel and Terramoon's Orion's Belt. I wanted to compare these even though you can see they're all different because these are all like muted blues that go to purple. So we have Clionadh Azure, Clionadh Tower, and Terramoon's Cosmic Dancer. Okay, so these are all purples with blue sparkles and they're all slightly different. At the top we have Clionadh Etched, Jade Glow Anomaly, Luxie Once Upon a Time, Lethal Scent, Pretties for Your Face, Solstice, Luxie Twilight, and Clionadh Enamel. I don't support Jade Glow, but I do think that if you already have Anomaly, you don't need Etched. Or if you wanted a dupe for Anomaly, I think Etched is the closest thing I can, show it to you. Apart from that, these are all slightly different, even though they are definitely in the same family. Now here we have another situation where they're all very similar. We have Clionadh Yellow, Glam Shop It's a Hit, Touch of Glam Shine Me a Kaleidoscope, Sadie Great's Ripple Effect, that was PR, and Terramoon's Cosmic Collision. I do think that Yellow is the most different of them all. It's almost like a more muted version of it, but again, it's up to you to decide if it's redundant for you or not. Okay, now for these purples, I do think that they are all very similar, but I don't really think that any of these are 100% dupes. So we have Clionadh Regal, Terramoon's Moontide, Luxie Painted Lady, Clionadh Royalty, and Luxie Feels. I do think that Regal is the most different because it definitely has a lot more blue in its base compared to the other ones. The other ones all have pretty much the same base, but then the sparkle kind of differs. I think that if I had to say like which ones are the closest, I would say it's probably Moontide and Royalty, but they're still different. Especially straight on. They just give like a different color, but again, this is like one of my favorite colors. I'm really happy to have them all. It is up to you to decide what is just too similar for you. Now here I think we have pretty much dupes. At the top we have Clionadh Glazier's Mark and then Copacetic Divination. I think that they're very, very similar. They're also very similar to the purple shade in the Pat McGrath Utopian Dream palette. I do think Divination has a bigger particle size, so it does look more sparkly. And then at the bottom we have Clionadh Glazed and Terramoon's Wavelength. I think this shade was discontinued, but if you already have wavelength and you're eyeing glazed, I don't think you need glazed. I think you pretty much already have a version of it. Then here also, again, kind of like different versions of the same thing. We have Clionadh Stencil, Terramoon's Reign of Terra, and Copacetic Necromancy. I think you can see Necromancy is the sparkliest of them all, and Reign of Terra is the most metallic, less sparkly of them all. Then here we also have like different versions of the same thing. Top one is Clionadh Reside, then Terramoon's Terra Borealis, then Luxie Hybrid, then Glam Shop Vegas Bis. I do think Terra Borealis and Hybrid are 100% the same. Grisaille pulls a bit more purple in its base, and Vegas Bis pulls a bit more brown almost. I do think Vegas Bis is different. It's a bit deeper, and I think also a little bit more neutral maybe. I don't know exactly how to explain it, but I think it's different. And then last but not least, we have Clionadh Shard, Produce for Your Face Heat Wave, Terramoon's Interstellar, Divina Messier, and Divina Skyla. I definitely think that the closest one to Shard is Interstellar. This is it. If there's any shadow that I didn't cover here that you still want to see compared, just leave me a comment down below, and if I have, the shadow you want to compare it to, I will let you know. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you on my next one. Bye bye.